What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Michael here from Technoid. Welcome back to a special live episode tonight, everybody. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to check your way in. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all are having a safe and excellent day. Welcome in, everyone. It is great to have you all tonight. Now, guys, today's episode is very different. I'm going to put a public disclaimer right now. If you are expecting tech news, if you're expecting cellular news, if you're expecting anything related to tech, this is not the video for you. Tonight, we are doing something very different. I have decided for one day only, I am going to take a break from talking tech, and I'm going to talk about something that I have held, something very personal and close to my heart, that is the horror genre, and one particular franchise in particular, and then something at the end. But I'm not going to do it alone. As you guys can see by the hype, I am excited to bring this individual on. He is a great new up-and-coming horror talk show host. He talks all about the latest upcoming horror movies, and some of those videos you may actually find very interesting, especially if you are a huge fan of cult classics like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Terrifier, Scream. We're just naming just some of the basics of the horror franchise. And I am thrilled and excited to bring this individual on. He brings a great level of energy, a great level of passion, but most of all, enthusiasm that is missing nowadays when we're talking horror. And I am thrilled and honored to bring on this individual. His name is KillJoy Jake, aka Jake for me anyway. And moments ago while we were doing the intro in the background with the 2-minute countdown, I saw Jake bopping out back there. So I think we're gonna have to make that intro song a new staple for the Technoid channel, because that's the third guest this week that we've had that has bopped to that. So I am thrilled and honored to bring on KillJoy Jake. Jake, welcome on to the Technoid podcast show.
Hi, how you doing, man?
I'm great, dude. Yeah, I saw you bopping out back there. I'm like, yes, I am keeping this as my countdown.
Oh maybe yeah, keep that intro music, man. That's bopping.
Maybe trim it a little bit, but I'm gonna keep it, absolutely.
Heck yeah, it sounds great.
Alrighty, real quick, let's run down the live chat. Let's see who we've got in the house. We got Omar in the house. Welcome in, Omar. Great to see you. Jay Brown, what is up, my brother? It is great to see you tonight. Greg B, screaming for Jake. We got so many fans. You got your fans coming over. That's a great thing. KillJoy, he's already in the live chat. You know he's popping out there, people. We know it. Hey, we got Max Tech Studio. Great to see you, Max. Hey, look at that. We got a familiar guy over there named Technoid. Gee, I wonder who that could be. Latrell, it is great to see you on tonight, Latrell. And Sean, it is a pleasure, as always, to have you on. Alrighty, boys and girls, without further ado, let's get right to it. So, guys, I'm taking a break from tech because I want to talk about a horror franchise that, in my opinion, is a true staple of the millennium, but a franchise that is very diverse and very quote-unquote controversial for a lot of particular reasons. But I want to talk about it because there is an upcoming film that, to me, and Jake, you've covered this extensively. You are one of the few YouTubers that I watch when it comes to Jeepers Creepers. You, Critical Overlord, and I believe there's Unreal Network. I forgot his name. I'll probably pull it up later. You three are the only three that I watch when it comes to Jeepers Creepers. That is the franchise we're going to talk about. And the new movie coming out is Jeepers Creepers Reborn. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about what we know, and I've shown you now. I will disclaim, there are a few images that I have shown Jake prior to the show that we cannot show on air because reportedly, these are actual on-set photos of the Creeper's design, possibly a hint at what the beginning of the film is going to be. Now, again, there might be some spoiler in here. This is all speculation. We're not predicting this film. We're not saying this is actual plot and stuff. This is speculation. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you have the option to skip that. But if you want to hear about it, you can more than definitely hear about it. And Jake, you tell me if I'm lying. I sent you the images. We cannot show them. So you're my personal witness here.
Yeah, we definitely cannot show those, but they're very interesting. So we will talk about them for sure.
We will talk about, but we can share another video by a user called What Shall We Do Next? He is another source that is talking about what we know. So I will put the link in the description and in the live chat so you can check out his images, and we can talk about them because they are real licensed images by Screen Media. So there should be no problem there. But real quick, before we talk about Reborn, let's give a quick flashback to Jeepers Creepers. Now, Jake, I'm going to let you open it up because I like to let my users, people feel out who I bring on my show. So I'm going to pull up here the poster for the original Jeepers Creepers. And why don't you introduce people and tell, what is Jeepers Creepers?
So Jeepers Creepers is a film from 2001. It's honestly one of my favorite horror films. Like I talked about this in my video. It's like for me, it's top 15. I love it. It's a great concept. It's kind of ripping off the whole Pennywise idea a little bit, like the concept of the creeper. He comes back every 23 years to feed for 23 days, and these two teenagers unfortunately run into him during the movie, and one of them is, well, spoiler alert, is eaten and it gets his eyes ripped out. It's one of those. It's one of those special horror films. The cinematography is done very well. Like a shot from it that I'm just thinking of right now is when the creeper he cuts off this dude's head and picks it up and starts ripping the eyeballs out of it with his mouth. And in the background, there's this sign that says "Tastes so darn good" or something.
I
like
remember
that.
That was like a campfire little thing, like meaty.
Right. It's one of my favorite scenes for that movie. It's done very well. I'm a big fan of it, and even the sequel as well. Maybe not so much the third film, but it's a good franchise.
We'll get there. We'll get there to the third movie. But I do have to disclaim right off the bat, because there are going to be horror fans that do possibly watch this episode. Let me give a full disclaimer. I am fully aware of who Victor Salva is. I'm sure, Jake, you know about Victor Salva. We don't have to dive into what he did. We don't have to talk about him much. But I want to disclaim right off the bat, I am a person that can separate the artist from the film. In Salva's case, I'm not here watching Jeepers Creepers for him. I'm watching this film for the creeper and the people that brought the creeper to life, with Brad Parker, the makeup effects artist, things like that. So I can separate Victor Salva from Jeepers Creepers, the first, second, and third. But I understand the circumstance of this franchise and why people may not look at it as a valid franchise. So I just want to put that out there. So anybody that comes into this video, I'm not defending Victor Salva. I think he's a terrible person for what he did. But I'm not here to support him. I'm here to support the creeper, the creation, the creature he made.
Agreed. And the other thing that's really interesting about this new film, or that's really good, I should say, is that Victor Salva will have no part in it, will not make any money from it. It's a whole new director, new team of people pretty much doing it. So it's all good stuff moving forward.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the positives with this new Reborn film is is it Reborn? It's Reborn. It's Reborn.
Yeah.
I was about to say I was mixed up the title, but no, it's great because now that Salva's gone, and I did a little bit of research because I wanted to figure out how much is he actually gone, because and you could tell me if I'm right or wrong, but from what I was able to gather, he has no creative control over the creeper going forward. All the full rights have been sold to Screen Media, who are now going to control the production of the creeper films, creation, and story. Salva has no control over the creeper anymore. Apparently, he will have no there is a rumor going around saying that he will get credited as created, the creature created, but we don't know exactly until we see the film. He won't be profiting off this film because all the rights have been sold, merchandising, publicity, the actual film distribution rights. So it seems he will be making zero profit or zero notoriety, anything. I don't know if I'm wrong in saying that.
Yeah, so the only confirmation about that so far, to my knowledge, like this could have changed since then, but the director went on Twitter and actually responded to a fan and said, "Yeah, Victor said we bought the rights from Victor Salva. He will no longer make any kind of funds or any kind of royalties from the Jeepers Creepers franchise at this point." Which I hope is true. Like if he does get credited for created the creeper, like I hope he's not like actually making anything off of that.
Oh, absolutely. So that's what I've heard. Again, I don't know. So that was the only thing we can confirm, but we'll have to wait and see when the film comes out. Does he get a note saying created by? I would assume so, because even if he isn't making money on the creature, they would give probably at the end of the film. They probably don't want to put his name, in the beginning of the film or anything. So probably at the end. But going past Victor Salva for a second, as Jake mentioned earlier, the first two films, in my opinion, are great films. First one, excellent. It was different. It was something very special to my heart because and I told Jake backstage, this is the first ever horror movie that I ever saw in my lifetime. And to prove it, I showed him these two DVDs. This is the one, let me see. This is the one my uncle gave me when I was 5 years old. This was the first movie, and I still have it in good condition. I sometimes pop it on for memorial stakes. And this is one I bought myself, the special edition of the first film. And then when I was 6 years old, when I took a trip to Florida to visit my cousins, I found out they made a sequel. So I went out and bought the sequel as well. The First two films, very good. The second one, not as good as the first one, but had some fun moments, and I definitely love the effects in it. Definitely a step up. Much more money to be invested. The third movie, on the other hand, well, you know what? Let's just let's put that in between. Let's put that somewhere. It's like, here's the first one, here's the second one, and then there's the third one, because that's exactly what it is. It's not a terrible movie, but it's not a good movie. I would say that's where I fall with that.
Yeah, I like it has elements that are really interesting. It like does a lot of world building in the Jeepers Creepers universe. Like one of my favorite parts of the whole movie is the fact that like his truck is all tricked out with all these like saw traps basically. I love that. Great addition to the Jeepers character and all that. But overall the plot is just it's all over the place. It's not a great like movie to sit down and watch. If you're a fan of
Yeah.
Jeepers Creepers, you'll appreciate it, I think though.
Well, as a fan, I was disappointed. I saw it in theaters. I went out of my way to go see this movie in theaters, and I left the theater feeling very disappointed. You know, you waited 14 years since the second one, and now we've gotten this third movie, which was supposed to be, from what we were told, it was supposed to be the one where we find out what the creeper is, we get a continuation story, only to then find out it was a midquel, basically an in-between, finishing what happened after the first movie and taking place moments before the second. I was pissed off. When I was in that theater, I was pissed off. And the theater was pretty packed too, so that's another thing we'll talk about later. But all this disappointment made me think we were never going to see another Jeepers Creepers film. I thought this was the end. We're going to wait another 17 years. Well, it looks like fate had other ideas, because now Jeepers Creepers is getting an all-new movie titled Jeepers Creepers Reborn. Now, there is no official poster. There is no official anything. The film was announced a couple weeks ago. Jake, you've been on top of it, and I'm going to keep watching your videos because that's where I mostly get my news. But we're going to talk right away because we're already 15 minutes in. So I'm going to propose a couple of questions on this show. So we're going to talk about what we know. We're going to talk about the images that I showed you backstage, plus what I'll pull up on the screen. We will talk about this franchise going forward, if this is going to be taken seriously by horror fans and also financially. And lastly, will this series have any chance of redemption? And we'll start now with the first question that I propose. The first question is obviously the images that I showed you backstage. Now, I'm going to let you take the floor, but I will disclaim what I showed Jake. And if you guys want to see them, again, I cannot leak them because these images reportedly are getting taken down by the director and the team. And the person who posted these images, his whole channel got taken down. So I can't even link the video where I got the photos. But basically the photos show reportedly an official design of the creeper. We've got two images showing the creeper in different positions, but showing the same design aesthetically and basically proportionally similar to other images that we've seen in the creeper in background images that you put on your channel, Jake. And then there's one more, which I think people have seen, which is basically him on the stick with the second film. Now, this leads into a couple of theories and stuff, but I'm going to propose the question, and then you can go first. Taking a look at these images from your own site, from what you've seen, what are your takeaways and your reaction to what I showed you?
My biggest thing, like looking at the images you sent me and just everything I've seen online, is that it's pretty much confirmed at this point that this is going to be the Jeepers Creepers 3, essentially, that we've been wanting to see. The film where it actually takes place 23 years later after the second film, off of that big cliffhanger that we still have not gotten a reveal from yet. I think this is going to be the movie that finally does it and does it right. Jeepers Creepers 3 was such a letdown because it's almost unnecessary. Like the whole plot of it almost feels unnecessary. It doesn't really answer any questions, although it teases it's going to answer some stuff, but it never does. This new film, I think, is going to answer those questions. How do you defeat the creeper? What happens at the Taggart barn 23 years later at the end of Jeepers Creepers 2? What happens? We want to know. And I think this film is finally going to answer all those crazy questions that us fans want to know.
Yes, absolutely, 100% agree with you. The images show a creeper, basically the creeper where we last saw him from the hibernation stage, and I think that that's really great. that they are honoring the previous films. Because when the news broke that this film was a reboot, everybody assumed that this was going to start from scratch. This was going to be a whole new timeline. People were curious, are they going to honor? And it looks like that is going to be the case. It is technically a reboot because it does take place 23 years later, but it will honor the previous films. And there were other images that came out, like voodoo dolls, which hint at the first film. Then there was the truck, which I will be showing images. I do have the video here ready. I can show these images. But taking a look at the images that I showed you, there is one little thing that has me a little concerned, and I think we touched upon it. The creeper itself. While I don't think it looks terrible, and I think I have a theory for this, he looks, and I'm not trying to spoil anything here, guys, and I don't know if I'm going to get taken out for saying this. He looks nothing like this from what we saw. He doesn't look anything similar to that. Well, he does. He does look similar, but it's completely different. I can't say it, but I will tell you. It has me concerned because this might not be Jonathan Breck. Now, it could be the makeup effects. It could be a gradual process that he becomes the look of the Breck creeper that we know. But my follow-up question is, are you concerned that Jonathan Breck might not be in this film? Or do you think that it's possibly what I just said? It could be a phase where he goes in and then becomes what we recognize the creeper.
I am a little concerned that it's not Jonathan Breck. I mean, just looking, obviously, you know, we can't show him, but just like what I've seen of those pictures, it doesn't look like him at all. And that would be such a letdown if you didn't have him play the creeper, because he does it so. I talked about this in my Versus video. Does it so well. He plays the creeper a little like just a tad differently between the first and the second film. I would argue that he's a little more like a little more Freddy Krueger in the second film than the Jason Voorhees character that he's playing in the first one. If that makes any sense, he's a little more charismatic. He doesn't talk, but he's like there's like the scene that I'm thinking of specifically is when he's looking at through the back of the bus, and there's all those kids. They're all standing in a row, and he's going like he's waving his finger at them like, get out of the way. Like I want to. There's one in the back that's smelling. That's the one I want to eat. He's a lot more charismatic and has like a lot more of a personality that Jonathan Breck just brings to this character. I don't feel like anyone else knows this character that well and would be able to do it as well as him.
And you got to think about the horror franchise and the horror genre in a whole. Whenever you create a creature, an iconic image like this actual physical creature, usually 3 out of the 4 times, you're going to get the same actor that portrays this creature. As we've seen with Freddy Krueger, it was portrayed all through till at least the reboot, Robert Englund, including the Freddy's Nightmare TV series, which people probably don't even remember. Jason Voorhees has numerous different actors, but the one we relate to is Kane Hodder. Kane Hodder played it the more recent, and more people look at Kane Hodder. When you look at Scream, well, Scream doesn't really have a solid actor, but it more along the lines of the protagonist and antagonist, things like that. But when it comes to monsters and creations, as I said, Freddy Krueger and Pinhead, Clive Barker, and also Doug Bradley. Those 2 names are reminiscent with the Hellraiser films. So with Jeepers Creepers, now that Salva's gone, I don't think you should also kick out Jonathan Breck. Now, again, based off the images, we're not sure. I don't know. I mean, it could be Jonathan Breck. It could not be Jonathan Breck. But from what we're seeing, it looks like it's the creeper going through its hibernation phase, coming back. So it could possibly be that the creeper has to re-eat people to rejuvenate itself. And that's where we learn that every 23 years, it eats part of it, not only to keep itself fresh, but also keep its stature for that long. That's why, I mean, we kind of already knew that, but maybe if it expands on it a little more during the hibernation, maybe we learn something about that.
They definitely have made him look decimated, like for the earlier parts of the film, because he's been hibernating for 23 years. You don't need something for that long; you're gonna look pretty fucking terrible. Well,
I mean, if you look at, you remember, no, it's okay, Don't worry about the money. I don't care. I'm having fun with this episode. I don't care about no money. I'm having fun with this. But no, if you remember in the second movie, boom, he gets stabbed like 20 plus times, and then he got shot in the head. So it would make sense why he'd look decimated. But also Tori M, good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. But so I'm a little bit worried that Jonathan might not be returning, but at the same time, I am willing to give this new person, if it's a new person, a chance to shine in the role. I'm not a guy that's going to write it out. I'm not going to say that nobody can play the creeper. I think that everybody brings something different to the table, and hence the name Reborn. Obviously, this franchise is going to be reborn with new creative team, new everything. it is a shame if Jonathan is not a part of the series, but at the same breath, I'm not going to dismiss anyone else coming in and trying to. That was like when they did Hellraiser Revelations. I hated the film, hated it, but I respected Stefan Colin Smith, who played Pinhead in that movie. I respected him because with the work that he had to do, I thought his Pinhead was decent enough where it reminds me of Pinhead, but it looked like he got his costume from Walmart, and then the lack of post-production in his voice. But with what he had to work with, I gave him a chance. And then the other movie after that. But with Jeepers Creepers, we got to keep our eye on this one.
Yeah, hopefully this new movie is nothing like those Hellraiser continuations. As long as it's nothing like Revelations or Judgment, then I'm gonna be happy with it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Now I am gonna show. Well, again, I don't want to risk it, but again, these images were quote unquote shown by Screen Media. I can show one of them because again, Screen Media Films' name is at the top, so these were licensed and shown to the public. So this is the video. I've left a link in the description. You can check it out for yourselves. But clearly, one of the next things is the truck. This was one of the questions I had going in. I was like, how are they going to approach the truck? And I guess we're getting our answer here. After 23 years, it's broken down. It's decimated. The creeper is gone. The truck has no... Because from what we learned in the third movie is that all of these things have a physical attachment to the creeper. They're all somehow directly connected to him. So when he goes down, this stuff goes down. So what I'm thinking, and I'm going to ask you, do you think by him coming back and with the truck, with what we know from the previous films, is it possible that we're going to see the creeper going to kind of show that when he becomes healthy, everything around him follows, like the truck?
Oh, that's a great theory, man. Actually, I would agree with that because I think we're once again this is probably how the truck's going to start off at the beginning of the movie, and then maybe he rebuilds it, maybe it heals itself because we know the truck has some weird powers and stuff, and you already saw the saw traps that it has, and it's almost like it almost has a mind of its own. I would like to learn more about that in this new film if they want to expand on that. Because it's clearly coming back. Like this is not an old image. That's not how the truck looked in the past.
Yeah. And also, I had to take it off the screen for a couple seconds because again, copyright. I don't want to get hit. I don't want the director coming at me. But I am kind of interested to see. But also, that was one of the things that I didn't like about the third movie was the makeup things for the truck that was bulletproof and this and that. I wasn't a big fan of it, and also the death traps, as you said. But if I'm going to accept the lore of the creature, I have to accept what has been created. So I'm going to give that kind of creativity to it. So I don't know if they're going to retcon that stuff, but it has been made known. So we'll see if they respect that.
It did go a little too far. I feel like the homing mines that came out of the back of the truck at the one point. It's come on, that's ridiculous. I did like the spikes that shoot down out of the back of it though, and that chain. That was pretty cool. The mine, that was a little much though.
Yeah, that definitely was.
Yeah.
To me, anyway, if you're gonna make up for the lack of a budget that you have of a film, at least give it the dignity to, give it like the spear I can accept, like the thing shooting out the back, the spikes coming down, I can accept that. But everything else, you got to kind of work it there with me. You got to kind of develop that somewhere. Because in the first two movies, we never saw that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Alrighty, now I'm just pulling up some other stuff here because, again, don't want to get in trouble. But now we get to the part with this franchise of it being taken seriously. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this franchise has really been controversial, mainly because of Victor Salva. And even with him being gone, a lot of people are still not willing to look at this franchise differently. Now, I can understand if you don't want to support it because of Salva, and that's fine. But I would ask the question, now that we're getting a whole new film, nothing to do with Salva, should horror fans, horror fanatics, give this series a chance if they haven't already? Because I think they're missing out. But if they're doing it for that reason, I can't argue with them. But with this new film, what would you tell the horror fan if they don't want to watch it because they still think Salva's attached to it?
I wouldn't blame people for not wanting to support this franchise for thinking that Victor Salva would still profit from it. I mean, from what we know, and this is just, in the public eye, so they could be telling us anything. Who knows?
Yeah.
That Victor Salva he's not profiting from it. So that's like, honestly, when I heard that news, that's when I recently, like, I've been avoiding buying the series, and I just recently bought it from Amazon after I heard that news, because I was like, okay, well, he's not going to profit off of it. Cool. So that was something that bugged me a little bit, just because, yeah, I've talked about this in my videos. I'm just not a fan of supporting a child predator like that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I recently bought the films because I heard that news. I like it now. It doesn't bug me knowing that he doesn't make any money off of it. If he still does, that would really suck. That would be like a big letdown to me, especially now
Yeah.
that I've actually purchased those films. I would like, if people don't want to support it though because of him, I understand. Like, that's something that I would understand. I wouldn't bat an eye at that.
Because from what I'm also able to gather too, American Zoetrope, the spin-off company that made Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2 by Francis Ford Coppola, they are partnered with MGM. So MGM technically owns the rights to the first two films. So not Salva, the rights of the film to license the film, sell the film, distribute are done through MGM. And the third, and then whatever's going forward, is Screen Media. So what I'm assuming is anything at this point going forward is now Screen Media. So Screen Media will now be making the money from the franchise, because I don't know if they get the rights to the first two films. I mean, I would assume so, or partial, because again, a studio that made the first two films, they do hold a right to a certain percentage, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think I don't, like you said, I don't think I'm not 100% sure if they like actually own the rights to the original franchise, but I think if they were to do a continuation, they would be able to reference it, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, they could reference it exactly.
Yeah.
But to horror fans out there, if your reason is because of Victor Salva, that is completely fine. That is something I won't argue with you. I don't think it's wrong for you to say that you don't want to support somebody like that. I'm with you all the way. When I was young, if I had known what he did back then, I probably wouldn't have bought them myself. But I was 6, 7 years old, and the internet hadn't fully rolled out to like how it is now. You cannot get away with anything. But knowing that now he's gone, that he's officially done with the Jeepers Creepers, from what we understand, based off of what the director says, and also backtracking a little bit of research on my end. And again, my word is not the final word. This is just what I have been able to find on my own. So I'm just saying what I believe. You don't have to believe what I believe, but I truthfully believe that this franchise is in better hands. I think that Salva gone, sure, maybe some of the ideas that he had are lost, like Trish and the Cathedral storyline, but we were never going to see it. So I think it's good that he's gone. But there is one thing I gotta say, and this is one thing leads into my next question. Whether you like Victor Salva or not, you cannot deny the man is a good director. If you look at the way he filmed the first two movies, the cinematography, the way he presented the creature, the way that he introduced it, and he wrote those two movies, you cannot deny that he did a good job filming the movie. When I watched third one, sure, he did do that with some shots, but of course with a lower budget. There was an error, though, of something that was lost from the first two films. Now, it could be because of the lack of the budget, but I would have to ask, now that we have a new creative team, now that we have a whole new direction, do you think that they're going to respect the groundwork with the way that the format that the films are made? Meaning, like, where he was in the cornfield and the color, the vibrance, and he's a dark figure with the hanging trees in Florida, because we know this is being filmed in Louisiana. So are they going to respect the groundwork that has been laid, not by Salva, but by the way the presentation has been done? Do you think they're going to do that?
That's actually really interesting that you bring that up. When I first saw that Jeepers Creepers 3 was going to come out, I was really excited for it. I honestly didn't know who Victor Salva was at the time. This was 2017. And I remember I was going to go see it, and like I was all excited for it. Then this news came out. That's kind of when it became really like super in the public eye about Victor Salva, and I remember being really disappointed. I actually read the news as I had the Creeper like Funko Pop figure in my hand, and I remember just setting it down.
Yeah.
But to continue with that, yeah, I feel like I'm almost happy Salva isn't a part of it for multiple reasons, not just because of that. It's also because I feel like he's almost lost his touch with this series. Like that third film was not at all what we wanted. It could, you could erase that from time and space and it would really make no difference with this franchise. What we really want is a new team working on a new story that takes place after the events of 2. That's what we all are really wanting at this point in the franchise. I'm excited that a new team's going to be taking it on, and I think they're going to try and recreate that magic that the first 2 films have.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, and I definitely do respectfully agree with that too, because I think that he has definitely lost some of his touch. He's not a gore director. He's more of the visual cinematography type of director, so he focuses more on the suspense. But now that Salva's gone and we got this new director coming in, I'm interested to see what he brings to the lore of the Creeper. Is he going to be a slasher? Is he going to be the suspicious stalking vibe? What is this Creeper going to be now that it has a new controlled team, or a team of different artists and different effect makers and everything?
I actually had a theory about that in one of my videos. Like one of the main settings of this new film is going to be this like horror convention. And my theory right now is we're going to see a totally different Creeper who just wants to just murder a bunch of people. He's hungry, right? So I think one of the, maybe not the opening scene of this movie or anything like that, but like maybe sometime towards the middle, we see the Creeper fly into this place and just like murder 40, 50 people, like with an axe or something, and there's just blood spraying everywhere. It's just going to be an absolute slaughter fest for one scene in this movie. Would love to see that.
Yeah, you know something? I actually would like to see that too. Because even though the first one made the Creeper more suspense-based, he wasn't a gory killer, and the second one definitely upped the body count, I would like to see the Creeper take full advantage of this. Because this creature, we know nothing about it. We know the lore, we know this and that, but we don't know how he's going to adapt. Because another thing I didn't even think of, this movie takes place in 2024 because the movies Jeepers 1 and 2 take place in the 2000s. So, correct me if I'm wrong, now he's going to be in an age where phones, smartphones, media outlets, things, I don't know if the film's going to go that deep, but considering the first 3 films took place in the 2000s, there was no advancement in technologies, this Creeper's going to have to learn to adapt. So I'm kind of interested to see if it goes to this festival. Is it going to be like the human adapting? That it's one of the people dressed up? Because that's another cool thing with the horror aspect. The creature blends in. Nobody could tell if it's a creature unless, of course, you're murdered by it. But it's interesting because I want to see, is it going to adapt? Because if it's looking for victims and there are people dressed up in horror costumes and he's seeing technology, is this creature going to adapt with the time? And I'm thinking that might be something you can explore, and we might see how the Creeper has adapted over the years, which was something hinted in the second film in a deleted scene.
Well, I think something that could happen in this new one is, if you remember, like the first film specifically does this opposed to the other films, there's like a little touch of meta humor, just it's sprinkled in there. There's like 2 or 3 lines really throughout the whole film that have that a little taste of that. I'm thinking let's bring that back for this film. Like not a lot, like not like Scream 4 level where every line and every plot point is like that. But we bring back a little bit of that, and we have the Creeper walk into this festival, and like maybe at first you see some dude run in front of him like, dude, nice cosplay, man. Oh, that's awesome. And then maybe
I actually would like to see that. I actually would.
That'd be a great scene, right? And then maybe he just takes some dude and like he walks into the bathroom with somebody and just like cuts their head off and starts like biting their eyeballs out or something.
Oh yeah, that's another thing, and I'm glad you brought up the eating part, because the next thing I want to talk about is the budget for these films. Again, when we learned about Salva, he had a problem, and that problem led to the film being a complete failure because they didn't have the money, or he couldn't get the money to finance the film properly. And if you watch Jeepers Creepers 3 and you see the effects, I'm going to pull it up right here. When you look at the predecessors that came before, they did a much better job. Look at this. Jeepers 2, a film that came out in 2003, I believe.
Yep.
And then you look at a film that comes out 2017, even with a lower budget, granted, this is what it comes out. You tell me which one you're going to take. I'm taking this one.
Oh yeah. The practical effects always look better than CGI any day of the week.
Absolutely. And this was actually a real person And they did that similar in the third film, but again, the effects just were not there. But it could also benefit that they did take place at night, which is one thing you can hide bad CGI in nighttime. You do night shots. And a couple of those shots in the third movie did look a little convincing when it was under low light appearance. So that's one way to kind of milk the bad effects. But now comes the finance of the film. Now that Screen Media has it, again, no Victor Salva, nothing. Will we see the budget for this film? Are they going to treat this film with the proper respect and the proper tools it needs to succeed if it wants to be a trilogy or a franchise?
I think so. I think they'll give it a good enough budget to do it well. I'm honestly, this is totally slipping me, but I don't remember what the budget of the first film was, or
$10
or the
million.
second film. $10 million.
10 million and 17 million for the second film.
Okay. Well, comparing that to another Screen Media film, Willy's Wonderland, that just came out, that had a $5 million budget, and it probably could have used a $10 million budget. Not gonna lie. I would like to see this film get a good enough budget to look good. If it could suffer for sure, like Jeepers Creepers 3 did. But I think with a new team who's a lot more resourceful, we have like a younger director on this film. We might not need to do it with such a big budget. Like look at Blumhouse, man. They make films for like $1 million and they look fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it really, like, at the end of the day, your budget almost doesn't matter. It more matters about who is behind the camera, who's working on this film, who's going to put the time and effort into making it look good.
I agree. I definitely think that comes down to it. But I do hope that they really do invest in this film series. I really, really do hope so, because if they're not going to invest in the series, it's never gonna really pick up. But with that said, though, I don't necessarily would rule out that they wouldn't, because their first attempt at Jeepers Creepers was 6.7 million or 6.2. Screen Media did give a little bit more money, but even with that, it still didn't look convincing. Now, it could again be that they were lacking in behind, but the last thing I'll talk about, and then we'll kind of finish it up, and we'll talk about one small little story, and then we'll end the episode there. Just trying to pull up here a quick image of Jonathan Breck as a creeper. Here we go. But the last thing is the box office. Now, people have argued for years that because it was gone for so long, because a lot of people waited and it didn't happen, a lot of the hype for this franchise is gone, and also with the surfacing of Salva's conviction. People say that this film is getting a theatrical release. It's not getting a straight-to-video release. It's getting a worldwide distribution, and a lot of people say that it's going to fail. And I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. To anybody that says that, here are my facts. This is my tech side coming out. Whenever I do sources and anything like that, I backtrack. I always make sure I do background searches, and I remember doing this. This is the box office results for Jeepers Creepers 3 when it came out for one night only. One night! And then they did an encore event. So I think they swapped the dates. I don't know which one they swapped, because the one bigger is the one they did for the first day. But I don't know if they swapped the date. But anyway, if you take a look real closely, released in one day, limited theaters, you can't find this movie in your local theater house. You had to go far and wide. The movie pulled in $1.7 million, limited screening, and ranked in third place, ladies and gentlemen. And if you want to know what those movies came out, Kingsman, The Golden Circle, and It. Jeepers Creepers 3 was number 3 at the box office with It and Kingsman: The Gold Circle. And look at the difference in the money wise. Jeepers Creepers 3 made 1.7. It went on and did 2.4. Now, of course, it was in theaters for about 3 weeks at that point, but still, had it been released to more theaters, I personally believe Jeepers Creepers would have been number 2. I don't think it would have been number 1, but I think it would have been number 2. But also, another consideration that goes into this factor, that when it was released again, even limited, even more limitation, it didn't grab as much, but it still was in the top 5, number 4. And those films that followed were, again, It, American Made, and Kingsman: The Golden Circle. So to any of you out there that say, well, this film is going to fail, I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. And Jake, I ask, and I will end this segment of Jeepers Creepers Reborn with your final word and then mine, is do you believe that this will succeed if it gets a worldwide release based on what I've shown? And what do you think will happen? Because they want to make a trilogy, but what numbers, what would the box office reflect? What do you think they need to kind of pick up the trilogy?
I'm gonna say this right now. The biggest thing that needs to happen between now and fall, when this is supposed to be released, is enough people like me and you really need to be talking about Victor Salva not being involved with the film. I think that's going to be the one of the biggest things that will hurt its box office performance if people think, oh, well, another movie from that pedophile, like I don't want to see that. But even with that news being so hot at the time in 2017 when that came out, it still came out third up against still came out third against It's and Kingsman: The Golden Circle. I mean,
And it didn't even
that's
get.
so
It didn't
impressive.
even get. And here's the thing: it wasn't even released in all theater chains. The only theater chain, it was a Fathom event, and I was there. I was there that night. I went and saw it in theaters. I went out of my way just to see The Creeper, and I will tell you, it was not an easy screening. It was not like it was one thing you could go in and buy. You actually had to go a distance. So this film wasn't even released worldwide in the worldwide chain of movie theaters. This was select theaters. So
I
that's
also
another
think
thing to
that
take into account.
oh yeah, for sure. I also think that this fan base is very passionate about these films. We're still talking about these movies, and really the height of it was back in the early thousands when these things came out. Like the third film obviously wasn't as great. I think we still have a big enough following though that it's going to be successful. We could potentially start a new trilogy depending on what happens this fall, man. It's all going to come down to box office numbers at the end of the day, of course, though.
What number would you think? What if you had to predict a number? Now, of course, there's no right answer, but they want to make a trilogy. This film, I think they need to invest 10 million into it. I think 10 million is going to do the job for production to get the effects just like the first one. I think, in my opinion, the number should be around 30 million.
For the
30
budget?
million. Not the budget, the box office.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
No, sorry.
I mean, that'll be a crazy movie if it's
Let me
30 million, man.
let me separate that one more. Let me clear that up. So the budget should be 10 million. I think or 8 million, 8 to 10 million respectively. The box office number should be 30 million. I think that's what it needs to do to get a second sequel because they're doing it for a lower budget, but I think the marketing needs a push.
My guess right now is that we're probably going to give this thing because, like you said, it was like somewhere between like 6 or 7 million for Jeepers Creepers 3. Is that what you were saying for that budget? I'm thinking they probably give this thing because that was a big criticism for the third film. It looked a little low budget. They probably gave it a little more money, so I'm guessing somewhere between like 8 or 9 mil is what they gave this thing ultimately. Maybe not quite $10 million. I could see it getting to 30 million though this fall, especially because it's a big year for horror movies. Like there's so many different continuations coming out this year. You are going to have horror people coming out of the woodwork to see like every film that's going on this year. And especially we're just coming out of a pandemic. We were unable to go to the movie theaters for a whole year. And now things are starting to clear up. Fingers crossed. I'm not saying anything. But hopefully yeah,
All four fingers.
all your fingers.
All fingers crossed. There you go.
Right. Hopefully by the time this movie does come out, we can all be going to the theaters and think about how well the performance is going to be just for movie theaters, dude. Everyone's going to be going out and doing stuff. We've been stuck at home for a year. Everyone's going to want to go out and do stuff. I think this film's going to do really well alongside all of the other horror continuations that are coming out later this year and then early next year.
And what's interesting with these new movies, and also if you guys want to know, a lot of people say the pandemic has a factor to play in this. I don't think so anymore because the box office numbers for a couple of movies that have come out have been very strong. Tom and Jerry, soon Godzilla vs. Kong, which I'm a huge Godzilla fan, so I cannot wait to see that. But people are willing to come out and go back out. And now that they're rolling out this vaccine, I don't want to get political here. I'm not a political channel, but I will tell you, if you're given an opportunity to take the vaccine, you do what you think is necessary because that will help you get out a little bit more. And I'll tell you guys, I got my shot today. I got it, boom, done. And because I'm a teacher, I work with children. I teach them martial arts and also I interact with them. So I had to get the shot. But no, yeah, I think that with this pandemic finally starting to die down, or not die down, but more of it subsiding is the word, and more people willing to take the shot and more people willing to go and support movies. I think Jeepers Creepers Reborn is going to I think it's going to make up for what we really needed in this franchise. So, final thoughts on Jeepers Creepers before we end the segment with one tiny little story and then we're done. Final thoughts?
I'm excited for it. I'm everything I'm hearing about it so far is exactly what I want out of this movie, and I'm definitely going to be seeing it in the fall. I'm really excited for it, and there's clearly a lot of other people very excited for the film as well.
Yes, I'm one of those. My final thoughts are huge fan, love the creation. I'm glad Salva's gone because now we can see this franchise finally get a second chance. And I really wanted to succeed because the lore of this creature is amazing. It's unique, it's different. Sure, it's similar to It in a sense, but at It, I would argue that it's more of just a creature that takes the form of something because I believe that's what it was. And the creeper is an actual physical being. We don't even know the origins. We don't have an origin story. So I am really, really enthusiastic. And I think if they can replicate the magic of the first film, because it was a Millennium film and nobody had seen anything about it, because this is starting from scratch, you reintroduce the first two films, but not doing them in a way where it's like a flashback, but you mention them briefly, blah, blah, blah. Bring back the magic of the first film. Boom, you've got your work there. So I'm excited.
I completely agree, man.
Well, I'm excited. You're excited. We're going to see this movie. No change there. So that's it for Jeepers Creepers Reborn. Now, real quickly, before we end the show, we got a couple minutes to spare, so I'm going to end it a little early. But my last question to you, Jake, is the horror genre right now. We're in a weird renaissance right now of original classics getting represented. What would be the respected representation on the screen? Halloween is one of the best examples right now. Michael Myers got the justice it deserved after the two reboot sequel and the reboot and the other sequels that came before it. It's getting a lot more respect that it deserves. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is on the way. We are possibly seeing a respect or return to form. As your latest video brings out, you talk about how it is returning with one of the original Survivor girls from the first movie, Sally
Hardesty, I believe.
Sally Hardesty, thank you. And then you got Scream. You've got Scream 5 coming out. Unfortunately, Wes Craven will not be a part of it. Rest in peace, Wes Craven. But we are seeing a rejuvenation of these horror icons. And we're in a time period where a lot of horror movies are rated R, PG-13, and I don't like PG-13 horror movies. I'm the solid R guy. It was another rejuvenation as well. So my final question to you is, what other horror icon, in your opinion, deserves a well-respected, a movie that's taken seriously, just like Halloween, just like Scream, just like possibly Texas Chainsaw? We'll have to wait and see on that one. But what horror icon do you think needs the biggest rejuvenation in all of its history of franchise?
A rejuvenation, like one from the past, I would say, and this is going to be one that's a little controversial, man, but Freddy Krueger, dude. Like, there has not been a good, there's only one remake, and it's not great. We need someone, and like, Robert Englund's up there. He's an older guy now. He's not going to come back and play the role. Like, he came back for the Goldbergs. That was awesome. I don't know if you saw that or not. He was like,
I saw that. It was interesting. It was interesting,
fun,
but you could see the age. You could see he was not the same Freddy that we know.
We need to find someone to play a new version of Freddy Krueger. That's something that needs to happen now. With everybody coming back now, minus Jason, of course. We got Michael Myers, Leatherface, Ghostface, all these great icons coming back for new incarnations. We need a new Freddy. Maybe not the same like silly Freddy that kind of how he devolved in the sequels. We need original Freddy back and someone to play him kind of how he was in like the first like 1 through 3 movies a little bit. He's a little charismatic. He plays with his food a lot. We need something like that. Maybe a different take on that from a new actor. I could definitely see that coming in like the next 5 years for sure.
Oh yeah, I think Freddy, I have a different choice, but I can completely understand where you're coming from. Freddy Krueger is one of those creations where it is unique in every sort of the imagination. It's a dream killer. Nothing like that had ever been created. We had Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, we've had zombies, Return of the Living Dead. We had a lot of things in the 80s, but nothing comes close to the phenomenon that Freddy Krueger was in the 80s. I wish I was born in the 80s because I love the 80s decade. It had a lot of good stuff, the music and maybe the fashion wear, if you want to argue that. But Freddy Krueger is one of those pop culture icons that you don't forget. When you see these gloves, it's all about the gloves. When you see those knives, you know that's Freddy Krueger. And Robert Englund is great. But you're right. When he did that cameo, you could see the age. You could see he was not the same Freddy that he is. So I think, yes, he is done. I think we should pass the role to somebody. But like you said, we need to keep him serious because the reboot tried to do that and then it completely failed. Because at first I was watching the reboot and I'm like, yeah, they're going to go back to make him scary. But then somewhere in the third act, they're like, you know what? We really should give him some puns. I'm like, come on now. You can't just like change a formula up halfway through the movie. You got to make it consistent.
The worst part about it is all the puns were just famous lines from the old movies that they just recycled.
and the recreation of the famous kills, they were literally look better in the original than they did here.
Oh yeah, 100%. The
makeup
VFX and all that,
the makeup and stuff, like nah. Like listen, I respect Jackie Earle Haley as much as I love. He is no Freddy Krueger. They messed up. I'm gonna pull up the reboot real quick. I'll say who I want to see get rejuvenated real quickly, but they messed up around the eyes of the makeup bad. Like it reminds me of, you know what it looks like? It looks like a lion. It looked like somebody burned up a lion. It looked like a burned up Aslan right there.
Like the cowardly lion from like
the cowardly.
Yeah.
but another thing that creeps me out. Another thing that creeped me out is in the reboot, and I saw a lot of potential, was the angle. They tried to make Freddy the victim, thinking he wasn't a bad guy, but then they killed that whole thing within the first few minutes because there's no way for you to root for a guy like this. So why do it in the first place? And one of the things I also hate, and I don't know, this is just me, but like, that striped sweater, it's a staple of the character, but in today's day and age, I'm getting Zoom vibes. Like, you remember that show Zoom? Like, I remember seeing that Zoom. I'm like, dude, that Freddy Krueger got his inspiration. But I swear, if you pull up Freddy Krueger in front of a horror convention, he ain't getting in there. They'd be like, you in the hockey mask, come on in. He'd be sitting there going, what? He'd be like, you in the back there with the William Shatner mask on, come on in here, you're welcome. They're like, I can't believe this. Like, change the sweater up or something. Well, no, don't change the sweater, but rejuvenate the character like you just said. So I think that's what we need. But I pick, and I'm sorry if I talk a lot.
You're good. It's your show, man.
I think, for me, and I said it before, Hellraiser. I think Hellraiser needs a massive, I repeat, massive rejuvenation. And for 3 reasons, and then I'll let you decide what you think. Number 1, inconsistency. All the Hellraiser films, with the exception of Revelations and that new one that came out, I didn't even see it yet, so I'm probably not even going to waste my time.
You're not missing much.
Exactly. With the exception of those 2 films, every sequel after the 3rd movie were not scripted as Hellraiser films. They were literally incomplete projects, and they threw in Pinhead for the money. Number 2, now that you've established Doug Bradley is no longer going to play Pinhead, we need a solid actor or somebody solid to continue the role, create it iconically. Because Doug Bradley, I mean, he does show interest. He wants to return to the role of Pinhead, but, it's been 2 films in, and he's not coming back anytime soon. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to see him again. But we need somebody who can bring that presence of Pinhead and make it iconic. And number 3, and most importantly, you gotta get Clive Barker back on board. He is not on board with this series. He despises everything they've done. So I think you need those 3 things alone to rejuvenate the Hellraiser franchise, like they're doing with the Candyman.
Well, I have some good news because now it's been a long time since I've talked about this, because this was like early on in my channel when I was talking about the Hellraiser, the news with that. Clive Barker did, I believe, just get the rights back to his original book that the Hellraiser is based off of. It's slipping me what it's called. The Hellbound Heart. So he got it's a novella that like the original film is based off of, and he just got the rights back to that. Now, what he wants to do with that is create, I don't know if he wants to make a new series with it, but there's a lot of speculation that maybe he's going to have a new remake's going to come out. It is confirmed that I believe David Bruckner, he's a director, is going to be doing either a new series or a new movie for HBO Max. That is actually in the works right now. There hasn't really been a whole lot of news about it lately, but I remember last year I was talking about that a little bit over the summer. So there's something's on the way, is my point here.
I hope so, because Pinhead is a unique creation from Clive Barker. Another good one, Phantasm. Phantasm would definitely be cool. The tall man, and I loved the first Phantasm movie. The second, third, just kind of like went. You know, you can never top the first one. Once the first one set the bar, you really got a tough road to go from there.
My biggest thing about the second Phantasm is it's like, oh yeah, remember that ball from the first movie? Well, here's a bigger one. That's probably my biggest criticism of it. I like the first three, but like after that, they like I think there's a fourth and a fifth movie. Those are just okay.
No, absolutely. I understand, and I completely agree. And with that said, boys and girls, we have reached the hour mark. Now, real quick, before you get out of here, before you leave, I hope you stay before we end the show. I want to thank you for taking this time to coming on my channel, definitely helping me take a break from talking tech. But also, I'm glad to be able to relate to somebody, especially with horror franchise, because I'm hoping to show my subscribers what I know about horror, but also to bring on other people that I can relate with. And you're probably one of the best horror fans that I have talked to, because there are some horror fans that take this stuff with a passion, and then some people just brainwash. So I appreciate everything that you've done on your channel, and here is your channel for reference. Guys, I encourage you all, please subscribe to KillJoy Jake. I have my notifications set, so anytime he makes a video, I am clicking that video as soon as it starts. As you can see, I've been watching these videos non-stop. I'm excited for Terrorizers, so you've got my hype going. But guys, definitely check out KillJoy Jake. I'll let you end out, Jake, with anything you want to add, anything you want to say. But I will tell you guys, you will not regret subscribing to this man. Great channel, great content. And if you are a horror fan, it's a no-brainer. You got to subscribe.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I talk about a bunch of movies right now, as you can see, like on my front page. Scream 5 is like one of the hottest things I talk about. A lot of people are excited about that film. Really, really pumped for that. I do this little versus series that's real fun. I literally just yeah, I really like making those, so I hope people watch them, because I kind of just put like different horror movies up against each other, review them, and I say like this one's really good, this one kind of sucks.
I'll tell you what, if you do a versus one for there was a movie. I'll tell you maybe after when I see behinds, but if you could get me in that video, I'll definitely defend the remake. You can do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original versus the remake. If you do the original, I'll do the remake. I would love to help you out on that one, because honestly, I love the original, but I defend the remake at all costs. So I would definitely, I have no problem getting chewed out by horror fans. I have no problem with that.
Oh yeah, that sounds great, man. We'll have to talk about it.
Nah, but that's just a suggestion. But I love your channel, dude. I love the content. I love exactly what you do. Your passion shows in all your videos. So that was another reason I wanted to bring you on. Your passion, your character, your personality, it all comes through in these videos. And guys, I cannot stress it enough. If you haven't checked out KillJoy Jake, again, check it out. There is so much here that I'm telling you, you are not going to regret hitting that subscribe button. If you are a horror fan in general, you're missing out, because this man updates you constantly. It's not like where you make a video once a week. It's literally whenever you hear something, boom. And I love that about horror channels, and yours right now is the #1 that I go to. So guys, check out the content, check out his channel. Again, link in the live chat. I will leave it in the description. And also, he has a Patreon, so I will also at the end of the video, I will be subscribing to the Patreon to help start your support.
Thank you.
And also, quick shout out to Critical Overlord for helping provide the Jeepers Creepers news, as he is also one of the few, again, I do watch, but also knows a lot about Jeepers Creepers. And this is the YouTuber Unreal Network. He also is following, but he doesn't follow it as much, but still, got to give shout out where shout out is due. But once again, everybody, subscribe to KillJoy Jake. That is it for the live episode. I want to thank you all for watching. If you're watching this on replay, #ReplayCrew. If you enjoyed the live stream, make sure you hit the like button. If you disliked the live stream, make sure you hit that dislike button. That helps circulate my videos as well. As always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all on a tech video next tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Again, subscribe to KillJoy Jake. Thank you for watching, and